Welcome back to another episode of Right Here in Mass. Joining me today is Mike Rivers, who was raised in Braintree in a real estate family with an appreciation for drawing, creating, and building, leading him to the field of architecture and design. After studying architecture and working in the landscape design industry for years, Mike has combined his passion for creating spaces for people with his love of building personal relationships by diving into the family business of real estate and partnering up with his brother, Nick Rivers, at Compass to form the Rivers Group. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. It's good to see you.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on, especially since we've known each other for, I don't know, I'd say at least 5 years now, probably at this point.
Yeah, think about
Um,
that.
yeah, sometime around there. But I'm very excited to have you on to share everything you've been doing. And you have a super impressive bio that's in our show notes for our listeners to look through. But I'd love to start off by having you share more about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, thanks. Basically, I have been a real estate agent on the South Shore for, well, and into the Boston area for the last 5 years or so, thereabouts, right around the same time we met, actually. And yeah, I joined a team with my brother Nick, who's been in the business for, at this point, probably 15 years. And he sort of convinced me to get into the space as I was looking into real estate investments a while back. And he just said, the best way to learn this business is to go get your real estate license. I need help. He had been doing a lot of business with friends and family, and he was sort of working on a lot of people's second, third homes. So he did need some assistance as far as real estate sales goes. So helping people purchase and sell homes. So I went and got my real estate license 5 years ago and sort of didn't look back into the investment world much. I've been really focused on sort of being the best real estate agent I can possibly be
Mhm.
recently. And I'm sure if the right property comes up, I'll start weaseling my way back into the investment side of things. Maybe picking up a property for myself, my family, a multifamily, and then, a couple of years later, potentially renting it out and moving on to the next
Yeah,
home.
absolutely. And so, as you shared, I know that getting interested in investment properties is really what opened up your mind to real estate. But as you mentioned, or as shared in your bio, you originally studied architecture and then also worked in the landscape design industry. So, I'm curious to hear what your careers were like in that, and then also what made you want to like change gears and follow this new career path.
Great question. So rewinding a little bit to, yeah, I mean, growing up, I was always interested in creating, building. I always had, those connects, building little towers and sort of ended up being focused on drawing, creating. So it led me to the field of architecture, which is obviously a sort of a creative industry. Studied at Wentworth in Boston and went through that whole program there. It was a pretty high level architecture program, and it was a lot of work, to be honest. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, graduated during the housing recession, or at least unfortunately at the time. So it was hard to find an architecture. Uh, it was hard to find like an architecture. What's the word I'm looking for? Like an internship
Yeah.
somewhere. So no one was building anything. The architecture companies weren't hiring, and it was just a big challenge for anyone that was already in the industry, never mind someone that's just graduated college trying to get into it. So I had been working part-time at a landscaping company in the city of Boston for a couple of summers. I was there mowing lawns and laying down sod and watering flowers. It was like a great summer gig for a college student. So, and it was easy enough for me to get to. I had a couple of buddies that had worked there that they ended up getting me the job. I worked alongside them for a few years in a row. And after I couldn't find an internship or a paying architecture job, I called them back and I was like, look, are you guys hiring? I just need to work somewhere for the time
Yeah.
being until I figure things out. So they actually told me, can you come in tomorrow? They
No
needed some help.
way.
So I was right to work the following Monday, and I ended up lasting there for the next, I think, probably 10 years.
Mhm.
So, in some capacity, I was there for like 13 years. But as a laborer early on, and then as I had graduated with an architecture degree, I had a lot of experience dealing with sort of pitching design concepts and presentations. And I got to look at some of the designs and presentations that they were doing for their clients. And I told the owner that I could do better. And I asked if she would be open to letting me take a shot up in the office, helping assist the sales team. I was sort of like done with the labor thing. It felt like I wasn't really using my degree, the experience I had gained in college. So luckily, they gave me a shot, and a couple days a week, I was up helping the sales team and putting presentations together. Turned into a full-time position, and ended up developing my own book of business there. They needed some help in the sales department, so I sort of assisted the sales team, and then did my own sales and presentations also. And that just sort of lasted for 10 years. I ended up helping them with a number of things as far as like the business development side of things goes, some of their branding, marketing.
Hmm.
Ended my position there in like the marketing space. So sort of real estate adjacent. Essentially, I'm a marketer now, but had been looking into real estate investments or casually reading books while I was like towards the end of my tenure there. And I basically had hit a ceiling there anyway. I was sort of looking for the next thing. I wasn't going to grow anymore, and I knew I was, too young to just like stop it there at that company. So was looking into other things, and as I was looking into investments and around the time COVID happened, I sort of parted ways with that company and
Hmm.
had that conversation with my brother, and then went up to get my real estate license. I think the draw for both of us in real estate was my father had gotten his hands on some investment properties back in like the 70s. And so he had a couple of buildings that he owned in the Boston area, and we had, some sort of childhood experience helping him with the maintenance of those buildings. Not that we had any business like replacing bathroom tiles and floors when we were 12 years old, but he was a very sort of, I guess you could call him a slumlord. He was not doing everything really correctly back in the day, but then my mother sort of helped get involved with those investment properties and really turn them around. And they still own a couple today, and they're
Hmm.
in a lot better shape than they were when we were helping with the maintenance there. But it gave us some great insight to owning property, owning investments, understanding how the landlord tenant relationships worked, property management.
Hmm.
And yeah, it was a great sort of learning experience as we were coming up, but it was just something that we sort of did whenever we wanted to go to work with dad. He was a full-time Boston public school teacher aside from that, but we on the weekends we'd go in and he'd pay us for the day, buy us lunch, and we just help him with that. So my brother got involved in real estate a lot earlier than I did, but thank God for him. He once I got my license, he really showed me the ropes and really helped me understand how to build strong relationships with clients. And that's really what we're continuing to try to do is to build these like lasting relationships with our clients versus looking at it transactionally like a lot of agents do.
Hmm.
So yeah, my brother got me involved from the jump. I mean, the second I got licensed, I was, he had me go host an open house by myself that first weekend. He wasn't even there. He just said, "You're going to go do this open house. You're going to be there Saturday, Sunday. It's, 10 to 12 or whatever it was." And I was sort of off and running. And then he also involved me in a lot of the transactions he was doing. So, maybe up to 20 transactions a year that he would just loop me into the email threads and help me easily understand the process of the real estate transaction and just how it went from contract to close, essentially.
Hmm.
So, super sort of fast paced work environment, and it helped me learn a lot very, very early on in the process. And I think luckily I've been able to give back some to him as well. Because 6 months in, I was like, I'm just being a headache for Nick. Like I'm a speed bump now, preventing him from smoothly transacting. But was able to bring some of the business systems. I'm a very systematic, sort of process minded person, so I was able to implement some of those procedures to streamline both of our transactions, again from contract to close. And so hopefully I've been more helpful to him than I think I have. But
Oh, I'm sure. And I think it's so interesting to hear about your background because that totally correlates into what you do with real estate. And I think it helps to differentiate you from other real estate agents, having gone to school for architecture and having worked in the landscape design industry for, I think you said about 13 years. I mean, having those two experiences and knowledge and whatnot, I think totally translates into what you do now. And it sounds like you can probably consult your clients on those types of things more so than other agents might be able to, since they might not necessarily have that degree or have that experience too.
Yeah, it's a good point. I think a lot of real estate agents or successful real estate agents, they always have some kind of an edge somewhere, and it's
Mhm.
very different from agent to agent. But yeah, I think some of those things do give me a draw, or do give me a little bit of a benefit over some. But there are other agents that might be better at me than they're more like a contractor minded or more like inspector minded people that than they are marketing people. So
Yep.
everyone sort of has a different way they handle things. I just try to sort of meet my clients where they are and really understand them from that first conversation. That's a huge part of it is just trying to understand what their mindset is and trying to deliver as well as we can, or if it's not going to be a good fit, just telling them that this isn't the right fit. I don't, for instance, a buyer might be looking in an area that we have not much experience in, and if they're really looking for someone that knows that city or town like the back of their hands,
Mhm.
we'll be honest with them and say, look, we can refer you to another agent, but this isn't going to be the right move for us. I don't feel like I can meet your expectations. But again, everyone sort of has an edge. And yeah, I like to think I've been able to leverage a couple of mine.
Yeah, absolutely. And also too, it sounds like from joining the industry in the pandemic that that was probably like a wild time for you, knowing that the pandemic, like houses were going left and right, and there was so much busyness going on. I'm curious to hear your experience, like being new to the industry at such a pivotal moment for real estate overall.
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think it's funny, the last 5 years, I've never heard an agent that has been in the business longer than me say that it's a normal market. Like the last 5 years has been just craziness, sort of at every turn.
Mhm.
Starting with COVID, right when I got licensed, I think a lot of people that aren't familiar with the industry were like, "Oh, what a great time to get into real estate! Houses are going for all these crazy amounts." And I'm like, well, yeah, if I've have been developing relationships with clients for the last 10 years, it might be a great time to help some of these people sell their homes, but nobody's going to the new agent and saying, hey, can you help me sell my home? That's, I'm going to get top dollar for right now. I know you've been in the real estate game for a week, but can you sell my house? So it was, very difficult for me to get any new listings back then, and
Mm.
buyers were having such a hard time actually getting offers accepted, especially in those suburban areas, that it was challenging to transact with buyers too. So it was a time where I really, I guess that you could say, focused on best understanding the transaction process and trying to understand how I could best deliver for clients when I eventually got them.
Yeah.
And then being involved with a lot of my brother's transactions. I mean, a lot of agents have different ways they handle team members and how they get compensated, and some compensation is better than others, but my brother really took care of me in those early days. I mean, he knew I wasn't getting my own clients right away, so
Mhm.
I would do whatever I could for him, meet clients at home inspections and host open houses and be a resource for him however I could, and he would compensate me very fairly based on his commission structures, and that it kept me alive. He's the only
Yeah.
reason I was able to actually survive those first couple of years that were honestly just a challenge.
Yeah. And I'm glad that you share that perspective because now that you say that, I'm like, oh, that's so true. Is like getting into any industry, especially real estate, when you're new, is difficult to build that credibility, build that rapport, and build that brand awareness to be able to get new clients. And so, beyond being able to partner with your brother in that capacity, what did you find really worked for you with being able to establish that trust with people and help to kind of build your own book of business from there?
That's a great question. Obviously, as an entrepreneur yourself, trying to build a brand and establish some kind of credibility is definitely a challenge. But
Hmm.
um, again, between Nick and I immediately hired my own real estate coach because I really didn't want to hound my brother every day for, how do I have this conversation with a client? How do I have that conversation with a client? So I got involved in a coaching program that was exclusive to like Compass agents, who is the brokerage that I work under. And this guy who is the coach, he basically started like a group coaching call that was, I think when I started, it was almost every single day. There was some kind of a call, whether it was a buyer side call or a seller side call. And there'd be, 20 something or 30 something agents early in the early days of this coaching program. And it's sort of has evolved since then. And now when I still jump on the calls to this day, and it's I think there's more like 120 people on these calls
Oh,
now. So
wow.
he's grown the coaching program quite a bit, and it's been really effective. But it's, the combination of my brother's advice and the coaches he's used in the past, and then my real estate coach that I use, have really hammered into our heads like treating clients like a partner and a collaborator, and really understanding what they're looking to do, and treating it like like this is a luxury service that we're offering. It's not like
Hmm.
sort of a automated, discount brokerage. We really want to treat clients with like a white glove service approach, and continue our relationships with them, and ask if they need anything, be a collaborator, be a resource, hook them up with someone that, whether it's a contractor or a home inspector or a plumber, whatever it is, we're there, whatever they need. And we're, trying to stay in front of them and not annoy them, but make it be known that we can be a resource beyond just the transaction and finding them a home and selling their home. So I think
Totally.
that's really the core of how we can expect to continue to do business through word of mouth referrals down the road.
Hmm.
So that's like foundational.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think it's great that you mentioned that you invested in a coach because it reminds me of like a phrase that I read a few months ago, which is like something along the lines of even Serena Williams has a coach, even Simone Biles has a coach. Like even like people who are so great and talented and achieving incredible things have a coach. And so I think it goes back to the whole notion of like being able to work with someone who's been there before, who has achieved what you want to achieve, I think can really help push you forward. And so that sounds like it was a really smart move for you is to just invest in that, both time and money, and be able to build up your own expertise even further in terms of real estate.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I think one of the first things that this wasn't even a realtor or anything that said this to me. I think it was a local loan officer that I still continue to do work with to this day. I think we were out on the golf course and just talking about how challenging it can be for new people in either industry. And he said, Mike, one of the things that's going to shock you about this industry is how quickly you're going to run into people that know far less than you do, because it's really simple and easy to get your real estate license. And I think a lot of people, for that reason, it's attractive to them, whether it's to
Mm-hmm.
sell their own home or to help their friends and family out, because they think the industry is just, it's as easy as getting your license, when really like that's when the challenges start. It's the second you get your license handed to you.
Yeah.
I mean, the barrier to entry is really a joke. It's, I took a 40-hour class and took passed the test my first time, and it was, it's really simple to get your real estate license, which is a little scary. I think like barbers need 1,000 hours working in a chair with a licensed barber to get their license to cut hair, and I'm like, now I'm dealing with people's $1 million homes. It sort of seems a little bit off, you
Oh,
know.
yeah. Yeah,
But
that makes total sense.
yeah, and that happened pretty much immediately, and I started running into other agents, whether it's in my transactions or just in the industry, that they knew very little. So I think
Mhm.
coaching has sort of opened my eyes to what's out there, and it's actually kept me even more excited about the industry, because I sort of like to teach and share information with people. I don't know, maybe my dad being a teacher, I feel an obligation to give people unwanted advice. So, um, but when I see agents that are, maybe they're in my local office and they're asking a question to the team of agents at a sales meeting, and I might have an answer that I've gotten through the coaching program that I'm a part of, and it feels like it's still early in my career, but it also feels like I'm able to offer some advice to either newer agents or agents that just haven't run into the situations that I have. So that's been sort of fun. I feel like I know more than I should as someone that's 5 years in.
That's great though. And you also mentioned too, which I think is huge, is building relationships with complementary service providers. Like you mentioned the loan officer, and I know that you have relationships with like real estate attorneys and insurance agents and stuff like that. And so I'd love to hear more about your experience of kind of building those referral partners and how that has really benefited you and even how other people can do the same in their business.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's super important that you develop your own relationships with your own sort of like-minded people, people that obviously they're professional. They handle things the way that we want to handle things. Treat their clients with sort of like a white glove level service, and they're communicative and responsive, which is huge. So
Mm.
many people just aren't. They just don't have that dialed in. But obviously, I met you. You were probably the first person I even talked to at the South Shore Young Professionals networking group, and there you get a sort of a mix of a lot of different entrepreneurs. Obviously, I'm going to be a little bit more drawn to real estate adjacent vendors like loan
Hmm.
officers, like attorneys, closing attorneys, and people that are able to more readily help my clients than maybe some other industries can. That said, like a lot of people in that group and a lot of people in many groups can be a resource for people. I mean, whether it's a financial advisor or someone else, but I think it's important to develop those relationships and really learn about people and how they treat their clients. Just whether it's on the golf course, you're having conversations about their experiences with people, and you have that sort of amount of time to really understand their mindset and whether or not they're like honest and reliable. And, you just naturally sort of dive into their experiences, different scenarios. So I think some one-on-one time or sitting down for lunches, coffees, really connecting with people and understanding how they work is important.
Hmm.
And then beyond that, probably one of the things that, as you can imagine, there are a million roads you can go down as far as generating leads, and you can just go down a rabbit hole all day with all the things that you can do to generate new business in real estate. Probably similar in marketing, just the social media marketing that you do. There are probably a million different avenues that you can go within that just to start generating activity for yourself and interest and engagement. But one of the things that I've been doing, speaking of like building relationships with people, is reaching out to the people in like my coaching community, which is a national Compass based community. So calling those agents, asking them how business is going, what they've been running into lately, whether it's on our group coaching calls where I'm on a call with, 40, 50, 60 people, or whether it's just I call them on the phone and
Hmm.
we talk for an hour about a recent transaction of theirs. So developing those relationships with other agents in other markets, especially feeder markets to Boston, like Florida, Central Florida, South Florida, where a
Yeah.
lot of these people are going to be snowbirding or moving down there eventually. I think it's an important activity that not a lot of agents do because it's time consuming. It's
Right.
very time consuming. Um, but I've sort of been able to see the benefit of that now that I've had a couple people move to Florida, and I can just hop on a quick call with someone and make sure they're the right fit for this person. Develop relationships with these people. I see them at retreats. I can go to their local offices. If I've gone to Denver and Orlando recently on just like leisure trips essentially, but I make it a point to go to those Compass offices, sit down with someone and have a coffee, grab lunch, grab a beer, and just talk shop for a little while.
That's
And
amazing.
I'm able to better service my clients here, better service people that are coming into Massachusetts from other states. And, more people or more agents, I think, are more likely to focus on those very localized relationships with people in the area, go to every single networking event they can possibly go to.
Mhm.
There's no right or wrong way to do this, but those relationships have helped me deliver for my clients, and eventually they'll turn into more and more business. I'm sort of already seeing the fruits of that labor. Uh,
Totally.
yeah, as long as we can be a resource, it's definitely helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the topic of relationships, of course, we met through Social Young Professionals, and now you're the vice chair of the organization. And so I'm curious to hear from your perspective the importance of anyone who is in business of joining organizations like that, of being able to participate in professional development and networking groups to meet new people and also help establish themselves.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's super valuable to, especially if you are in a hyper localized industry like real estate, where those connections, like proximity, means a lot, and the people that are regularly doing business in the area, those connections mean a lot. So networks like that are, I think, hugely important. I haven't been a member of many networking groups. The SSYP was my first group that the way I was introduced to it was actually funny, but um, the the organization has been super helpful. I think the casual nature of it, and I hesitate to even use that word, but like the less sort of serious, it's not like a BNI. You're not forced to give
Mm-hmm.
referrals every month and sort of report on all your activity, which to me, I think it helps a lot of people, and people have had a great experience with BNI, but it seems a little bit forced and disingenuous to me. So the South Shore Young Professionals has felt like a more laid back, sort of an easier way to organically understand how people work and just meet and engage with people. So that's been
Totally.
great. The cost is not super steep, so I think that's why I was drawn to it, and I kept seeing the same familiar faces like yours at the events, and made it easier to go back to. It wasn't as daunting as walking into like a new networking group every week or a few times a week and not knowing anyone. We see
Mhm.
plenty of new faces at the South Shore Young Professionals. Almost every event has, it's like 50% guests or 50% first timers, and then 50% people that I've seen for the last 3, 4, 5 years at the events. So it's a
Mhm.
great mix of people, but generally, I think, yeah, networking face to face is super important. When people see you out there connecting with the community regularly, they know that you're serious about your job. You're not just there for a minute and then you're going to move on to the next thing. So I think that really sticks with people, especially if you're going to all the events and you just see the same faces at a lot of them. And then obviously from there you can connect with people one on one outside the regularly scheduled organization events, and develop those relationships beyond. They can introduce you to other networks and you know so on.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's great, as you mentioned, to just be able to show up as you can, not have that expectation of having to go every week or whatever it might be, of having to be forced to share referrals, but more so having that more organic, like natural setting and just meeting people who have a like-minded perspective as you and can support you and vice versa. I think it's just huge.
Yeah, it's been great. I can't say enough about it, and I'm sure there are plenty of groups like it out there. There's a Boston Young Professionals event that they're not technically affiliated, but someone was at the SSYP event and said, "Oh, You're in. I live in Dorchester, which is a little bit north of the South Shore, still within the city." So they suggested going to the Boston Young Professionals events, and I've attended one or two of those so far, and another great group of people there. You're just in a different environment. You have people from all over the city versus people from Plymouth to Quincy.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And one thing I learned about you that was totally new is that you also own a photography company, which I think is so cool, especially knowing that you specialize in real estate photography with that. So that way, anyone who's looking to sell their homes and whatnot, you totally are the person to go to for that. But I'm curious to hear what made you want to start that second venture and kind of how you balance both that plus being a real estate agent for your clients?
Yeah, I think calling it a photography company is probably a bit of a stretch. It's more of a like an online database of travel photos that I've taken.
Oh, cool.
I really enjoyed traveling, and I think I've always been a little bit interested in photography. But back in 2018, I was going on essentially it was like a semester abroad for working professionals that had the ability to work remotely.
Hmm.
Program was called Remote Year. I was going to do 4 months abroad and work. I got work set up so everyone could work from the cloud, and ended up convincing my boss at the time that I could work remotely for 4 months, and they gave me the green light to go ahead and do this as long as so I had to work 9 to 5 regular East Coast hours, but I was traveling several countries in Europe, then went down to South Africa. But before I went on that trip, I knew that I was going to want to take really great photos and didn't really have the ability to do that yet. So I reached out to a local wedding photographer, sat down with him. He happened to be selling an old camera, and I asked if I could buy the camera off of him. So still spent a pretty good amount on the camera. I was like, I can figure out editing later. I just want to be able to take good pictures with this thing. And so I bought his camera, bought a nice lens for it, and used that when I was traveling. And that sort of got me into photography more so than I had been before. So
Hmm.
that was the impetus for starting that online website where I could sell prints. I've sold a handful, but nothing, nothing that is creating any sort of revenue stream for me. But it's more of a hobby than anything else, and it's definitely helped me in the real estate world because if I'm in a pinch and I can't find someone to do real estate photos, I'll do them myself, especially
Oh,
for
yeah.
rentals or something that needs to be a quick turnaround. I can just show up to the property and shoot it, and generally come out with a similar result to a normal professional photographer.
Oh, yeah.
Um, so to the point where like I was getting hired by the agents that I now work alongside out of like the Hingham sales office, and so my name was getting thrown around as a photographer for real estate shoots. I do less of those now. Sometimes I'll do them for our team, but I do like to be able to let let an actual photographer take care of it that has maybe a little bit more of equipment. They're doing floor plans too. I just knock it all out in one swoop, and I don't have to worry about spending time behind the scenes editing and virtual
Right.
staging and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
it's been a fun hobby and definitely something that I still do, and it's just sort of on the side.
Yeah. Makes total sense. And for anyone who's listening to this episode who is interested in getting into the real estate industry and pursuing that as a career, what advice would you have for them for getting started?
Um, I would say sit down with a handful of agents first and sort of ask what their experiences are. I think everyone sort of has a different experience in the industry, and everyone will tell you how they think you should move forward through it, and everyone has a different way of doing that.
Yeah.
So, um, I think I would make sure that they're ready to grind, because it's not, I think a lot of people go into it thinking, okay, I do this 40-hour class and pass a test, and then all my friends and family are going to reach out to me to sell their homes, and that's just not how it goes. Like, you have to really hustle to develop your own sphere, develop your own book of business, constantly get those referrals. I mean, half of what we do in the business is try to develop more business. It's,
Hmm.
obviously there's taking care of our current clients and making sure that they, we are ahead of the game as far as meeting their needs. Like, they don't need to reach out and ask us for anything, that we've already taken care of all those things. But also then, how do we develop new business? That's really a lot more of it than people I think realize. So I think turning it into a full-time venture takes an extraordinary amount of work, and you just sort of have to be ready to get into that mindset and really understand that how you're going to do that. So however your personality is, I started doing like YouTube videos because I like sort of talking about the city of Boston and all the different neighborhoods have to offer. So that's sort of one of the things that I do for lead generation. Some people are comfortable cold calling people or knocking on doors. So I think understanding how you're going to move forward the next 3, 6, 12 months in the first year that you have your license is sort of an important business strategy to work out before you go down that road, and to make sure it's something that you want to do for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
That's really it. And sort of just be careful on who you're taking advice from, myself included. It might not be the right it might not be the right advice because everyone thinks they have the solution to this, and it's so easy to get sort of shiny penny syndrome and go, oh,
Hmm.
this is the next way I'm gonna try to get new clients, or I'm gonna pay for Zillow leads, or I'm gonna start a YouTube channel that takes 2 years to even get any traction for. It's you could go down many rabbit holes, as I'm sure you know as a marketer.
Totally. That's great advice to really be intentional and aware of the advice that you follow and also what it is that you do so that way you have that longevity within your career.
Yeah, and understand that it's a relationship business. It's a people
Hmm.
business. So if you're, I see myself as an introvert, but I think there are a lot of people that are more introverted than I am, and I think if you're really not ready to grow in that way and get in front of people, then that could be problematic.
Yeah.
Um, but if you're comfortable one on one, or if you're comfortable talking to a family that's about to sell their house, and you can practice being in front of people and get more comfortable with it. But I think if you're really wanting to just do things on your own and have control over every single little thing, then it might be worth having that conversation with a few agents and just seeing how they've experienced the industry and how you can apply that to you potentially getting licensed and going out there and helping people buy and sell homes.
Yeah, absolutely. And for a fun question, I always love asking our guests what their favorite local businesses are to support. So I'm curious to hear what yours might be.
Oh, well, right now I mean, it's hard not to be mention all the people that I'm like partnered with like through the South Shore Young Professionals
Hmm.
and through my own business. But I live right behind Lambert's in Dorchester, which is like a local sort of deli, grocer, eatery. They sell plants outside. It's sort of hard not to give them a nod. I think I'm in there every day almost, just about getting groceries or grabbing a sandwich, or they're just great folks in there, and everything is amazing. And every time I mention that I live in Dorchester, people I use that as a reference, and people are like, "I love that place." So hard not to throw them a nod, but yeah, I mean, I could go on forever with businesses to support.
Oh, totally. Mike, this has been such a great episode, and I've really enjoyed having you come on the show to share everything that you've done throughout your career. And I'd love to have you share with our listeners where they can find you online in case they'd like to reach out.
Yeah, you can go to you can certainly Google Mike Rivers Compass, or Instagram. I'm Mike three underscores and Rivers. YouTube, the Rivers Group. Love for some more followers on YouTube if you have any interest in anything Boston or South Shore real estate. And then Rivers Realty Group is our team website, riversrealtygrp.com. So yeah, those are the best ways to get in touch with me. But yeah, check us out on if you're an entrepreneur, small business, the South Shore Young Professionals is a great place to run into me, and many other talented entrepreneurs on the South Shore. Um, but yeah, thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it. I feel honored to be here, and I can't believe you've done 140 something episodes. That's amazing.
I know. Thanks, Mike. It has been so fun. I'll include all the links that you shared in the show notes so our listeners can easily click through and connect with you from there. But thank you again for being today's guest.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thanks so much.